Good afternoon, all, and welcome to the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway. Today is Thursday, March 29th, 2018 at 1 p.m. Would you all please join me in standing for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and again, welcome. And just for the record, I want to make sure everybody understands that we do the minutes off of the recording. So if you are would like to speak today, please step to the microphone, state your name, and that's so we can get you on there. And Tiffany can continue to do a great job with the meeting minutes. With that, would you do roll call for us, Tiffany?
Stan Jones.
Present.
Joel Dunn.
Here.
Denny Dotson.
Here.
Nick Morano.
Here.
Jack McGuffey.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, possible action, approval of the agenda. Open it up for discussion. I don't believe we have any changes to the agenda.
No changes.
No? Okay, do we have any public comment on the agenda today? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Oops, excuse me. Moving on to item number 4, possible action, approval of the meeting minutes for February 22nd, 2018. And I'll open that up for discussion from the board.
I think I'm going to have to abstain from the vote. I was not present for the meeting.
I see no changes to the minutes.
Okay. And again, good job, Tiffany, on that. Do we have any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from the V&T meeting from February 22nd, 2018.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5 for possible action. Consideration and possible approval of interlocal agreement with Story County and Virginia City Tourism Commission for the provision of financial, auditing, and administrative services. I think in your packet, Commissioners, you'll see the contract from the District Attorney's Office. And I believe we had some last-minute changes to that were just really some wording from the clerk, or excuse me, from the treasurer and the comptroller's office. Really just in regards to some wording on there. I know, Mike, you've had a chance to review that, and we don't believe there's any issue with that. It's just a wording thing. I'll open up to additional comment from the board.
Mike, do you have any comments on this?
No. Stan, I don't. I reviewed it yesterday. It came in late and reviewed it yesterday and shot an email back and forth with Denny. I don't see any substantive changes to what is, I think, the 8th or 7th version of this that we've gone through. It pretty much states what everybody's impression and not only impression, but the intention of all the parties has been. I think the biggest thing that was made clear in this latest version is that they've specifically referenced the cancellation of the interlocal, the old interlocal from 2010 with Story County.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, the one other thing that I did get a call from, or rather an email from Tom Gray. He had a chance to review it after it was put out. The one request that Tom had is that in the header that we just changed it to the V&T Railway Commission. So the way it's labeled now is just a V&T interlocal agreement. By putting the Railway Commission in there would differentiate from his organization. I think is a good idea. So maybe within a motion we can include that one change.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment on this item? We are cruising. Yeah. So with that, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to for the termination of the interlocal agreement with Carson City for the...
No, wrong one.
Story County.
Yes, the first one above that,
Nope,
Jack.
yeah, I scratched the wrong one there, sorry. I'll redo this motion. I'll make a motion for the consideration and possible approval of the interlocal agreement with the Story County and Virginia City Tourism Commission for the provision of financial, auditing, and administrative services.
Do we have a motion?
Want to add with the recommended
Please.
language?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, and that is to include changing the title with the recommended language of V&T Railway Commission. Thank you.
Great. I have a motion. I have a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay, moving along. Now, and subsequently, we do have 2 current interlocal agreements with both Carson City and Story County. With this one, we'll need to remove these. Item number 6, possible action, termination of the interlocal agreement with Carson City for financial services on behalf of the commission dated 31st of August, 2005. Again, that contract is in your packets. I'll open it up to board discussion. Nope, hearing none. Any public comment?
I'm assuming
Jack.
everybody, we got Carson guys here. I guess you're okay with what's going on here?
We are?
Yeah, is that something, Nick, that would need to go back to the council, or are we just good with the termination here?
I'll have to check with the DA, Mr. Chair, but, I wasn't planning to, but you know what? I'll check with our DA. If we need to bring that back, I will bring back the canceled interlocal, and they can take it up for action.
Okay.
But when I had first looked at it, I did not think it needed to go back to the board.
Yeah, because I think really that, and Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the financial aspects with the license plate, historical preservation fee, that type of stuff would all get transferred to Story officially.
Yeah, correct. That was addressed actually in the interlocal agreement we just passed, so
Right.
that will switch over based on that, the approval of the interlocal agreement. As far as the representation that I have for the CTA board, this doesn't affect the commitment to continue to make the bond payment through 2023 on our side. So as long as the city, and if you are taking it to the DA's office or not, if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'll be happy to take it just to give you that degree of confidence. But throughout, both in the finance department, certainly in the city manager's office, we're fully prepared to take care of certainly the license plate aspect of it.
Great, okay. So is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion from the board.
This should come from a Carson guy.
Yeah, well, I think I'll make a motion with the understanding that it is also approved then by the Carson City DA's office. So I'd make a motion for the termination of the interlocal agreement with Carson City dated August 31st, 2005, with approval of the Carson City DA's office.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Move on to agenda item number 7, possible action, termination of the interlocal cooperative agreement with Story County that was previously dated on 20th of May, 2010. Again, same situation here. Any board comment on that?
I believe Story County's all behind this, and they have been from day one, so I don't see any issues of going back to ask anybody.
Yeah, Jack, and then subsequently, after the approval of the first interlocal here, that we'll take this back to the commission for the meeting in April and have it formally approved there as well. So, okay, any additional comment? Hearing none. Any public comment on this one? Bruce, thank you.
Yes, Bruce Kittis, Carson City. So since I didn't hear any discussion on the memorandum that was just approved, so as I understand it, what you're terminating now is an agreement that guaranteed a revenue to the commission through 2025. Because the 2010 tax extension was for 15 years. So you had 7 more years of revenue from Story County. So you have now given that, you're about to give that up because now you have an agreement that they can Story County can cancel with 60-day notice for any reason. That's how I read your new agreement. Can cancel for 60 days. It does, and at any time of the year. So my question is, would you, and the reason I'm concerned is because we've heard discussion that Story County, with their sales tax, probably didn't envision that there would be the industrial park. There's a lot more retail coming to Story County than what was envisioned in 2010. So that's my question. Is it reasonable? You've already approved it, so you've given up 7 years for sure for whenever Story County, for some reason, needs to cancel. They can cancel with 60 days notice. And that's why I had suggested to a couple of our members that you can only cancel, they could only cancel in the first quarter of the year. What if they cancel in June? Then you're going to be scrambling on how to get the money to run the train for that season. If they cancel in the first quarter, then you might have to, it's either going to be Carson City that's going to come up with the money again. Anyway, that's my concern. Thank you.
Anybody want to question that or answer that, or we just move on? Or
Yeah, I really don't know where the 60-day came from. I kind of questioned that myself. But that was something Keith Loomis, our attorney, came up with, correct?
Yeah, and I think the intent was if things did down, if it was a downward turn or something that we couldn't afford to do that, then that could be an option. But things are increasing. I see a bright future. A lot of it is abated out there in the industrial park, so I get a $0.25 from the Tourism Bureau as well. It hasn't increased too much. It's just primarily Virginia City that's really grown because of the abatements out in the industrial park. So, but with that it is more than I think they envisioned. You are correct, and I think that the 125 is going to work well. We'll talk more about that as we get to our budget. Going to work well within for us operating, but there is an additional balance that will be set aside for future projects. So.
It was reworded so that part of the problem was, and I know this was debated a couple meetings ago, about this $0.25 tax that Story County has that applies to the V&T. The voters believed that tax was going to build a train in Virginia City. Okay, and it hasn't been the case. And so we got to make sure we put some money towards Story County, basically. The thing is if we don't, there's a chance that the voters will want to get rid of this tax. So we got to keep everybody happy.
Well, I think that's a good point. Bruce, as a taxpayer here in Carson City and as the representative of Carson City on this commission, I do share your concerns, and I did voice them in the previous commission meeting. And just to reiterate, the previous interlocal had a number of outs, if you want to classify them as outs, but it had a number of outs in there for Story County, and I'm sure for good reason. Story County looked at the business affairs of the commission and made a decision that they were not going to contribute that quarter of the revenue from the 0.25% sales tax. So yes, we did cancel that previous agreement, and you can make an argument that some of the language was more favorable to the commission, but it did have a number of outs in it, and in fact, for the past 4 years, Story County had not contributed, with the exception of the rebuild of engine 18 had not been contributing on a regular basis, the revenue from that sales tax increase. With the new interlocal agreement that we have negotiated with the county, we do have a commitment from the county for an annual revenue stream for the commission. They've also agreed to set aside additional, on an annual basis, additional funding for maintenance. That still leaves quite a bit left over. And I've been a vocal advocate on this commission, and I'm going to continue to be a vocal advocate for breaking the status quo. And I've brought up the Carson River Canyon. If breaking the status quo includes maybe getting the train into downtown Virginia City, I'm all for that. Anything that I think is going to increase the ridership, increase the excitement, allow our marketing team to be more effective in terms of attracting additional visitors from outside the 100-mile area. I think we do need to get to that point where we're not just doing what we currently do better, but we're actually improving the experience. And I'm not hung up on the Carson River Canyon. If that's something that's going to take place in Virginia City, I would support it. And if Story County believes that they can save up that additional revenue it's a special revenue fund. The county isn't going to be able to spend it on other items anyway. So if they let that money build up and then maybe they're able to do a big project that would enhance the experience, then I think and I think, just speaking for myself, I think people in Carson City would support that as well.
One last question then. With the termination of this MOU, does that mean the audit as to whether Story County owes the commission or the commission owes the Story County, is that subject finished with the termination? Is it a wash? Because, I mean, we've been hearing about the audit for about 3 years. Is it over now?
Go ahead, Al.
Okay, well, yeah, Ron, or Mr. Gallagher, Hugh Gallagher, our comptroller in Story County, he's tried to get the complete set of books to speak of and see an audit, and Mr. Robinson seemed to be avoiding him all the way down the trail there. So Hugh Gallagher is actually taking that control over, and he will be the one to tell us.
Okay, so it's not over.
No.
Okay, because the commission did pay an outside auditor to try to settle it, but it's not over. Okay.
Yeah, and that auditor, you were here for that announcement, I think, saw it both ways. It could go either way. Yeah, they owe us, we owe them. So it was that was kind of a wash in itself, but it wasn't the final word. I didn't consider it the final word.
Well, maybe it would be a good time to just end it, so you don't have to spend any more money.
And that's where, Bruce, that's exactly where I was going to go. We just vouchered a couple of checks for about $18,000. We can't afford to keep doing that, so we need to come to an agreement and probably just move forward.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Kind of going off of what Nick had said, I'm comfortable with the wording in the 60-day. When I look at the 60-day, it's for the interlocal agreement that's now the V&T Railway Commission interlocal agreement. That's providing the financial services and services from the Visitors Authority in Story County. So the 60 days is to terminate that contract. If we get to that point, that doesn't change the obligation of the tax revenues from Story County. They're still set aside, and I mirror what Nick said. When it comes to having that money set aside, it's already saved us in one point in doing some maintenance on the engine for last year that we would not have been able to afford. I'm comfortable with it. I also am comfortable with the $125,000 that's set aside. I think that's more than enough to get us to where we'll operate into the black, and I know we can certainly come back and address that if we need to. Okay.
And I'll just give you my feeling on this as well. The canyon ride into the trail here down along the river, I think it's very important that we continue to try to get that done. There's there's two good points about this train, and that's the river and Virginia City. So we need to work on both, but right now the track along the river is a more feasible economical option of the two.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion on this item? Come to the podium for us.
Scott Jolkover, Carson City resident. One thing I'd like to add to Mr. McGuffey's comments, the river and Virginia City, also American Flat. As I donated the very first piece of property in a meeting room at the other end of the building to the Tri-County Railway Commission to kick off the beginning of the acquisition of the right-of-way. And I'm just proud to see that you guys are really grabbing this thing now and taking it to the next level. So I just wanted to make that comment because American Flat is a tremendous piece of the three-piece puzzle.
It is. The American Flat, my first train ride was, I think, in the spring, and the American Flat was nice and green, water running through it, and wild horses abound. So, yeah, the tourists love that stuff. You know, they just soak it up.
And mining.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. With that, I'll entertain a motion here on item number 7. Item agenda.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the termination of the interlocal cooperative agreement with Story County dated 20 of May 2010.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. We'll move on there to my favorite item here on the whole agenda, item number 8, possible action. Consideration and possible approval of the RFP Subcommittee's recommendation to hire Elaine Barkstall Spencer with Zephyr Communications for the position of General Manager. Folks, it's been a bit of an uphill climb since October, our first time we came together, and we had no idea what we were getting into. I think, well, maybe some of us did, but it's been a journey, and we're here, and I see great things for the future. We did go through the process, and unanimously have decided we want Elaine here to be the face of the VNT. So with that, I'll open it up for board comments on that. But my recommendation is that we hired Elaine as our general manager.
Well, I think Elaine actually made it easy for the committee. It was, I thought it was a great choice right off the bat.
You know, I really appreciate the fact that the chair gave an opportunity to actually talk to both of the potential general managers. From where I sat, we had 2 very strong applicants, and both of them would have done a phenomenal job in managing the affairs for the commission. At the end of the day, in my opinion, there was only one choice, and it was Elaine. I was absolutely impressed with her presentation, and I really look forward to working with you and getting to know you on a much better level, Elaine. I think you're going to be exactly what not only the commission needs, but what the whole community needs to kind of reinvest back into the railroad and kind of re-energize not just the tourists, but all the locals, kind of rediscovering their railroad. So wish you a lot of luck, and I think you're going to do great.
Well, I certainly agree with all the comments. Elaine was my only choice from the very beginning. I think she's already proved to us that she's hit the ground running, and I congratulate you, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Well, not having an opportunity to be part of the RFP or the interview process, and having worked with Wayne just in the last couple of days, very impressed, and certainly look forward to working with you.
I do have one other comment. I've been holding on to this thing in my office. When I took over Virginia City, I think Tourism Commission back in 2009, kind of took over a mess, kind of like we did here. And we kept certain things and threw certain things away we didn't think we needed. And I had this license plate that for some reason I just hung on to it. So with that, it became very clear what I wanted to do with it. Elaine, this is for your new office for the commission, the V&T Railroad. I don't know if it's a real license plate or not. It might be fake. You might get pulled over. I don't know. But good luck with that, and that's for you. So.
Let us know how it worked out.
So you can come get that, would you? But anyway, do we have any public comment out there? Elaine, would you like to talk?
Well, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I know it wasn't an easy choice, but I'd like to start off, though, by congratulating you all. During my desire for this position, during my research period, I watched you all during your meetings. I've spoke with you off and on, and you as a new board of directors, I was very impressed. You actually took the responsibilities. Denny, phenomenal work. Joel, taking over the books, was incredible, because I know there were challenges there as well. And then also, as far as advisors and people that served as interviewers or on these panels, to not just select myself, but also to select a marketing agency. It wasn't easy, and everybody dedicated their time. So I'm very, very impressed with this brand-new board and where this organization is heading. I am thrilled to, I will take the reins today, and you're going to see that I am high energy and serious at times, but I love to get the job done, and I do see our vision, and I'm thrilled to be part of that. I look forward to working with our current contractors, new, skilled experts, and Candy with her institutional knowledge, Tiffany. Thank goodness she takes the minutes. But this position is something I really wanted. I wanted to be a part of the V&T Railway and bringing people to Virginia City and Carson City. And again, I just want to say thank you. I'm going to make you proud.
All right. Great. Go ahead.
Bruce Kittis, Carson City. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say we first met this young lady at when she worked for the Comstock Gold. Investor relations, community relations. And then we saw her just about a month or two ago. She came to the Old Men's Club as the owner of the newspaper. So you should get some free advertising. Anyway, great choice. Thank you very much.
Great. Any additional public comment? Mr. Jokover.
As long as I'm here, and since I had the pleasure of working at Comstock Mining with Elaine, I will just reiterate that you made a really, really strong choice. And also, I'd like to say that I can bear witness to having been the chairman of the Virginia City Tourism Commission the past 2 years, having left at the end of 2017. I see that Mr. Dotson has learned wisely on how to run a meeting, and I'm impressed. So
I was coached well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any additional comment? With that, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. So I move to approve the contract with...
Not the contract. Well, that's next. It's just approving.
Oh, we're just approving the RFP.
Then we'll go to the contract.
Roger that. Okay. All right. Correction. I move to approve the RFP subcommittee's recommendation to hire Elaine Barkdale Spencer with Zephyr Communications for the position of general manager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9. will be the contract, consideration and possible approval of the contract with Elaine Barksdale Spencer with Zephyr Communications for the position of general manager, and that is in your packets. I will first comment on a couple of things within the contract there that legal came up with. One of them was a possible adjustment or a change in language on the termination. Mike, maybe you want to just clarify that real quick for us?
Certainly in paragraph 2 in the preamble sentence, it says giving 60 days notice of cancellation with cause. And then cause is defined in subparagraphs A, B, and C. And my comment to the chairman was, if you have cause, you don't probably want to be in a position of having to pay for 60 days when the person is terminated for cause. So I had recommended the 60 days retained, be retained at the end of the annual period, but to cancel with cause at any time. That was my recommendation.
Right, and I did have a chance to talk with Elaine about that, and she agreed.
Yeah, this is an at-will position, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
And then Joel, you had a comment as well?
Yeah, the only suggested change that I saw outside of the no notice for cause was on page 4 of 4. I'm very comfortable with a pay-for-performance package, but I would like to add on a year-end bonus of $10,000 for ending the fiscal year with a balanced budget surplus. I'd like to add that surplus must exceed $10,000 so that we stay in the black with the bonus pay.
Any additional comments?
I'm still trying to find the page.
No, that's on page 4 of her contract. While Jack's looking that up, the one thing that I think that I really liked when we were putting this together, that Elaine and I were talking about compensation, and then she came up with the idea of the business sponsorship commission of 20%, and really that's commission to be paid, have an outside person that she would hire to take that on, and I thought that would really work well. It's not it's kind of more of a pass-through for the commission. It's on additional business that they go out and pick up in the form of sponsorships or donors or what have you. So ultimately it would affect the bottom line too. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. That was a good piece. Any other additional comment? Jack, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item? Elaine, are you good with the proposed changes?
Yes, I'm good with that.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain we have a public comment. Didn't see your hand there.
Nicole Bart, Story County. Question on the Business Sponsorship Commission of 20%. Are those businesses that will be brought in by Elaine going to be brought before the commission? Is it going to be an open bid? How will those businesses be selected?
Do you want to answer, Elaine?
Well, Nicole, the way that works is that when we go out for sponsorships, as far as we'll build a sponsorship package, and what that will help offset operational costs, but they become sponsors. We'll develop a package. Maybe it's signage, maybe it's a rail car on a certain date. There's various things that we can do. But what it does is it brings revenue to the organization and recognition to the business. Currently, we have maybe 2 lodging and 1 restaurant.
Okay,
that are
then
sponsors.
I'm totally confused about what this is. I understand about getting sponsorships.
That's basically what it is.
Okay, so the 20% means what?
It means that, say we have a $5,000 sponsorship package, a $10,000, maybe even $100,000.
So
It would be
20%
sales.
of whatever the sponsorship amount is, if Dolan Toyota decides
Correct.
to sponsor a car for $10,000, then 20% of that would be coming as revenue back into the commission coffers? Is that what
Yes.
this means?
No, it's the
her.
80% goes into the coffers, 20% would go to the salesperson.
And who's the salesperson?
We needed to get this approved today so that I could reach out. I do have people that do freelance. Not myself, but I know of them.
Okay.
But we would then start looking for someone to perform that duty.
Okay, so the additional resources, whether it's a salesperson or whomever, is in addition to the $100,000 of this contract?
That, they would be under Zephyr Communications. It would be my responsibility to you would pass that money through so that I could pay them.
Okay, so the contract to you and Zephyr is $100,000. That's
Correct.
it.
That's it.
With that, you then are responsible for seeking sponsorships, and if it requires getting somebody to sell, to go do that, you're proposing that they get paid through 20% of whatever they bring in.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, so, but there's nothing in addition to the $100,000 that the contract is for, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just clarifying, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so
Okay.
we had a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion. Okay, I'll make a motion for the consideration possible.
Yep, button.
Thanks. Okay, I'll make a motion for the possible approval of a contract with Elaine Barkdale Spencer with Zephyr Communications for the position of general manager, and that will include changes to the wording of the 60-day termination notice, as this is an at-will position, and bonuses would be based on a 10K minimum profit. Is that good?
Comfortable? Yeah, okay, that's our motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on. Okay, this will be agenda item number 10 for possible action, consideration and possible approval of the RFP Subcommittee's recommendation to hire a firm for marketing services. Carson City took the lead on this. Joel.
Okay, so giving a little background on it, yeah, the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority did take the lead on putting together the RFP for the new marketing group that would be hired by the V&T Commission. And having just recently gone through the same RFP process with marketing firms licensed within the state of Nevada, it seemed to make sense for him to take the lead. I want to thank Chris Kipp, the operations manager with the CTA, for taking the lead on it. Kind of going through the process, it did go out, the issue date was on February 23rd. That RFP went out to 113 licensed marketing firms in Nevada. And with that, the selection committee of 4 people, they do remain anonymous, but that selection interview committee of 4 narrowed it down to the top 3 candidates. And from that, I've attached, and in the back of the room, you can find the rating sheets, the supplementary questions. There was questions during that RFP process that were brought to Chris Kipp from some of the applicants. I wanted to make sure that that's matter of public record also. You can see the responses that Chris put back to those applicants submitting RFPs. There's also the rating and scoring sheet for the 3 interviewees and the 4 panelists. It was a unanimous selection, and with that, the recommendation coming from that committee was the group that we have here today with Argentum. So I want to tell you that I think it was a very transparent and open process. The fact that an RFP went out to 113 different licensed marketing firms, it was great to see that 3 very qualified applicants ended up being interviewed by the panel. Certainly not an easy task. I wasn't part of that process, but I've been a part of those processes in the past, and I'm glad that they came up with a recommendation, and I'll open it up for any discussion.
Board comment.
Well, I'll make it public. I was on one of the people that's on the committee. And it was very plain, once you listened to all 3, that this group that we selected was head and shoulders above everybody else. They had vision beyond last year, this year. I like their approach. I like what they offer. And I'm looking forward to them working with Elaine. Thank you.
So I guess as a matter of record, I have to say that Stan Jones just violated the signature of confidentiality. So
Yeah,
That's also in your packet.
yeah, good. Any additional board comment? Anybody think anything for you guys?
Well, I don't know who was on the committee, and I wasn't involved with the committee, but the word circulating throughout the community, I'll call it the community, is that this is a good choice. And I trust the committee's choices. We have a great committee, so welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like to jump on that as well, Jack. I want to welcome Argentum here. I've worked with some of you on legislative issues, and you got a great reputation statewide. Kind of like our new general manager. We're very happy to have you here. I think you're going to do great things, and it's definitely a new day here. So, welcome.
Yeah. And then finally, I'll say congratulations, guys. Well earned. I do want to remind everybody that, SB 57, when we put that through, one of the main components that we did when we reorganized the VNT was, the main element was marketing. It's a vital that we have collaboration between the two visitor bureaus. That was the biggest thing I know for me and Joel, we had to have the right fit. And we have to have a cohesive unit between the two visitor bureaus to make this thing work. It has to work. It's a regional product, and I really want to make sure that we stay focused with that and that we have input from both marketing bureaus because it won't survive if one does not jump in there. It's a team product here that is a historical piece that the region needs to succeed. So with that, I'll open that up to any comments from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mike Draper. I'm a partner at Argentum Partners. I just wanted to tell you, on behalf of our team statewide, we couldn't be more ecstatic to be working on this project. We've had the opportunity as lifelong Northern Nevadans, or many of us are lifelong Northern Nevadans, to work on a lot of projects in Carson City, in and around Virginia City. We've had the opportunity to work with Denny on a variety of projects and with Elaine on projects in the past. And we couldn't be more excited to work with this team. We've done our homework. We think this is a great team and with a long-term vision that's going to be beneficial to the region. And we take this very seriously. So to your point, Mr. Chairman, this is a project that is very meaningful to us, and we're looking forward to working with all parties and even more to really represent the region and tell the great stories that this project has to tell. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to getting to know all of you over the coming weeks.
Great, thanks, Mike. Any additional public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion, and I would just caution in the motion here, we did not name in the motions an actual firm because of timeliness. So as we word that, it would be pending a contract to come back probably next month.
Okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take a shot at the motion. I think we've got a firm that's ready to hit the ground running. Based on what I've received back from Chris Kipp from the CTA and from the selection committee. And with that, the timeliness, I don't want to stall the effort of getting them involved immediately and hitting the ground and starting to work with Elaine. So in my motion, I'm going to ask that we approve today with signature authority of Elaine and also the chair, Denny Dotson, that Argentum move forward and start their marketing effort in partnership with the VNT Commission with a final contract to come back to the Commission next month for approval in good faith, knowing that you will be paid for your services during this time with signature authority, both from our manager, Elaine Spencer, and signature of Denny Dotson, the chair. With that, I think that should address any concerns that we would have.
Mm-hmm. Are you comfortable with that, Mike? Yeah. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Welcome aboard, guys. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 11, possible action, Treasurer's Report. Mr. Dunn.
In your packet, the first one we'll address is the approval of the accounts payable claims in the amount of $24,911.26, and that would be page 1. Actually, there's 2 pages. There is an additional backup, and all the backup for all 4 items are provided in your packet. Going through any items a little bit larger, I'd like to call notice to. We did have one of the 4 final payments to the contract agreement with Greater Nevada Business for the amount of $11,000, totaling 2 payments of $9,500 and $1,500. There was also a payment for contract for the accounting. We talked about the audit service earlier. The audit services with Steele and Associates. There was a payment of $6,800 and another contract payment of $3,120 for legal counsel. So with that, I'll move for approval of item A, 11A, which would be, unless you would like to do all 4 at once.
No, I think we did separate them.
Okay,
Yeah.
separate A, approval of accounts payable claims, and these, once again, are claims that were paid by Story County.
Any additional comment before we second that motion? Any comment from the public on this item? I'll entertain a second then. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item A passes. Agenda item number 11B, accept the ratification and the V&T Enterprise Fund Statement of Accounts Payable Checks in the amount of $107,406.30.
You bet. So with the passage of the interlocal agreement with Story County to handle the financials for the commission, this will be the last one, but we do have to do a ratification to move forward with the payment. It was imperative that we get a couple of these contractors paid. Some of these services were rendered in December, and the timeliness wasn't going to allow us to deal with the transfer over from the B of A account to Story County. In your package, you'll see listed as page 1 of 24 in backup, the ratification. So you've got 7 different payments that came out of the V&T QuickBooks account that is direct with the B of A. You've got, once again, the final payment of the contractual obligations for Greater Nevada Business Solutions, totaling $3,956.64. You've got a payment to Carson City Public Works, and that's some maintenance that Carson City provided, I believe, on the lighting.
Probably
for
the
bridge.
lighting?
Yeah, the lighting project. Going down, the only other one really to call to is we had the septic service that comes out and continually through the operations of Polar Express in the regular season, we have to have the septic service taken care of. So that one was the one that really drove us to write the checks out of QuickBooks so we could get them taken care of. The last and the largest of that is the $100,000. What that was the first transfer of payment to Story County so that we had a balance so we could continue to operate and have Story County cut checks. There is a remaining balance that you will see next month to close out the B of A account now that the interlocal agreement's in place, and I'll bring that back to you next month. So we're looking for approval of a ratification in the accounts payable of $107,406.30.
So again, when, any additional comment on that? We have a motion. We have a comment from the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain any additional comment or a second on this item.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries on 11B. Moving to 11C, consideration and approval of the 2017-18 budget adjustments for the fiscal year 18 augmentation preparation.
All right, I'll take the lead on this, and I'm sure Denny will want to jump in. Looking at where we are at based on all of our contracts, most of those that we've terminated from the beginning of this fiscal year, starting July 1, 2017, and identifying what costs we will incur between now and June 30th of 2018. Putting together, we were looking at remaining revenues coming in at just over $210,000, and our expenses, remaining expenses based on current contractual obligations and costs of operation coming in at a little over $362,000. That's leaving us with a remaining shortfall of $152,000. And I know we're addressing that, and we addressed the first portion of it with the interlocal agreement with a commitment from Story County to provide $125,000, and that is listed in the revenue, which is on page 2 of 3. Actually, let's see, are we on? We've got $125,000 from Story County and $80,000 from the CTA. The money that will come in to cover the shortfall will be for approval in front of the Culture and Tourism Authority Board meeting on the 9th of April. I don't foresee any issues with that. It's coming from the carryover account in the V&T fund. That carryover account for 2017 had just over $572,000 in it. In looking at what we need to get through this season, and also then what we'll be approving in the next item with the budget for the fiscal year 19, I'm confident that we need to get through this year, and we're going to be looking at certainly running in the black. And if we have any additional revenue needing to come from that carryover, we'll address it at another meeting. But with that, anything to add, Denny?
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Just so kind of putting it in layman's terms, we're moving from a fiscal and a calendar budget, trying to bridge the gap to where we are now to basically the start of the season, as far as bringing everything together and really covering all expenses until we get up and running, including some marketing, hiring the folks and that kind of stuff, knowing that we have funds available in both Carson and Virginia City or Story County.
Part of that, moving forward into the fiscal year, we did, Hugh Gallagher is going to entertain an engagement letter with Steele and Associates so that we can provide a half of the fiscal year ending December 31st. That's the contractual period that we really weren't in control of as a commission. We will have a half a year fiscal year audit that will be provided back to us at a later date, so that every one of the issues that we've addressed throughout our short tenure on accounting and accountability will be addressed. So, and with that moving forward, once again, we're addressing, this is a tentative remaining budget. We will come back to do a final augmentation based on the numbers that were provided to the Department of Taxation, and we will do that hopefully during our May meeting. Doesn't have to be until the end of June. I like to go closer to the end of the fiscal year, but I think with the changes and the pretty significant changes we'll be making, we'll bring back an augmentation in May.
Any additional board comment?
I think we all foresaw this coming, yeah. So we're just trying to deal with it the best we can.
Yeah, very well said, Jack. Do we have any comment from the public on this item? Here, then, do you want to entertain a motion, or? Yeah.
So I would make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2017-18, which is fiscal year 18 budget adjustments, only as an augmentation preparation worksheet for fiscal year 18.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. An additional comment, so we would expect a follow-up meeting with you, probably Elaine and Hugh Gallagher to see, to go over this, Yep. Okay. With that, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move on to the final item in number 11, number D, consideration and approval of a fiscal year budget. This will be our one and only budget, 2018-19 tentative budget. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. So once again, looking at the changes that we've made in our operation, looking at our new contracts and the contracts that we've terminated, as you can tell that we are proposing a balanced budget, which obviously you have to do as a governmental agency, but we're looking at revenues of $1,454,000 and expenses of $1,454,000. Now, I'm very comfortable in proposing the tentative budget. There is, I think, some conservative estimates on revenues, and I think we're a little high on a few of the costs, so I think some of our expenses will certainly come down, and I'm comfortable that we'll end with a little bit higher revenues and a little bit lower in our expenses. Some of the changes, we've made a few changes into the operations as far as the calendar and total number of runs, and I think we'll be addressing that later in the meeting today. But with that, it's pretty cut and dried on revenues and anticipated expenses. Anything you would add?
We took really, just to kind of have this develop, we took both the fiscal year and the calendar year from the last couple of seasons and really tried to make the the most sense going forward and do some common sense stuff. Taking a look at the amount of trains that are going to be running, the special event trains, the contracts like Joel mentioned. There is, if you look in the expense side, there is one contract, and I've highlighted it here, and that's our rail agreement with the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. That is still pending, and it's highlighted, but we do have to turn in a tentative by the first week of April. That is something that Elaine and myself will circle back with the Virginia Truckee Railroad on and try and finalize that. But that one, again, is just a forecast based on the amount of runs, what they did last year. Again, that is not a final number, so I wanted to bring that out. But it's pretty cut and dried. There's a couple of items that I highlighted. The depot staffing in the past is another one that we're kind of negotiating with Tom Gray, as far as maybe underneath his agreement. It's listed either way. We can go whatever direction, but I think that's another one of the items that we'll work out with Tom through that negotiation. But I think it's a balanced budget. We did sit down with a comptroller from Story County. Actually, I brought in Elaine to kind of look through that process a little bit and how we do that. So we went through every item, showed them how we built up, where everything kind of came from. So I do feel good about it. I don't think we missed too much. But again, this is it's kind of after 1 year from now, we'll have a pretty good idea where we were. But going into it, it's brand new. So it's I think our best guess right now. Over the next month, we can tweak a couple items before we do a final in May. Into May. So sure. With that option, I'll turn the comments over to the rest of the board.
No, I just have one quick one. I just want to thank Joel Dunn for all his work in getting us to this point. Again, I think a year from now, we may have a better view, but I think you did a great job, Joel. And I think on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for that.
Well, I know that Joel and Denny sat there and ground it out, trying to find those numbers and get them either low or high as they could, and I think your efforts will pay off. I'm sure they will. So, but it's all we have to do is get through this first year, then we'll know exactly where we're at, and and we got Superwoman here on our team now. That should help.
Well, adding to, I don't think any of us take lightly our responsibility. We've, as two different communities and as a region, we've invested a tremendous amount of money in an attraction, into a destination, into the V&T. And with that, we have a responsibility to get this thing where I think the support of SB 57 through the legislature and from the governor's office, what they intended was that we would get this running in the black and make it sustainable. And I think we're on our way to doing that. So I'm very comfortable with the numbers. We certainly will be coming back, and I anticipate that over the course of the next several months, we'll be looking at the budget and making a few adjustments as we go. Okay.
Any additional comment from the board?
I'll wait for board comment.
Or public comment? Yeah, okay. Do we have any public comment on this item? I hear applause, so maybe that's a good thing. We can't identify who that was, but I did hear some applause out there. Okay, so hearing no public comment, I'll ask for entertainment. Oh, I do have a comment from Ken.
Yeah, just a clarification, no problem with the work, and I appreciate the work that you guys did on that and the line items. The only thing is I noticed going through both the remaining year budget and proposed budget, the line item engineering, Ken and Gabe, I think you're basically mixing and matching two different items. That maintenance away, I think, is what you're talking about. Most of that work is related to Gabe's maintenance of the track and not so much engineering. And I'm just worried about, at some point in time, they're going to say, well, how come you're spending all this money on engineering when that's not the case? And most of that is track maintenance work there. So you may want to clarify that a little bit. I see there's also one item in there that relates to maintenance away hard costs. And again, I'm going to want to work with Elaine to identify where, pursuant to our previous conversations, as what funds we actually have to work with. But I think the engineering term is a little bit, we could get some criticism on why we're spending so much on engineering when it's really not. So
Yeah, Ken, thank you for bringing that up, and I apologize for not bringing you up as well. Ken actually and I sat down and went through a lot of the things that probably most of us don't understand when it comes to the budget. That's the engineering, that's the maintenance, that's the stuff that's kind of just always out there. Ken and Tom, they take care of that. So I kind of had to have a real educate me type meeting or a phone call with Ken to walk me through that. And I think the challenge, Ken, what you're seeing there probably is what Tiffany and I have to do now with Elaine is swing back with Story County and the object codes that are available to us and the wording. So some of that I know exactly what you're talking about, and we're trying to find the right one that fits so that when we do the budgeting that kind of makes sense with Story County's object codes, because we'll have a separate governmental fund, but it'll be ones terminology that we use currently. So there is some object codes within other object codes that will break that down, and we'll be able to pull those reports separately. So rest assured, I got your back on that one. Okay. Any additional comment? I entertain a motion on 11D.
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 19, which is 2018-19, tentative budget as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen, and everybody involved. Moving on to agenda item number 12 for possible action. Consideration and possible approval of the 2018 schedule. If you look at the schedule there, you have 3 pages. This really stemmed from a great conversation that Nick and I had with Tom, really just kind of thinking of ways. We all knew we kind of had to think out of the box a little bit going into our first year, hoping to still have the inventory available for the consumer, but also understand that we have to be fiscally responsible. So with this, we looked at a lot of different options. We looked at maybe eliminating Sundays, possibly skipping certain weekends, that kind of thing. And we kind of went down that direction. This calendar, or the schedule you have before you, there's a first page that really leads us up to our fiscal year with some special trains and our kickoff, a couple of special event trains in Virginia City and here in the Canyon. What we did is we really looked, when we got to the regular season, we looked at, which is the second page, we looked at traditionally what are the dead weekends. So we looked at weekends that really were competing with, say, 4th of July or the Civil War train in Virginia City, where it would help not just us with a slow or a low ridership, but also it would help Tom too on the backside because he's got so much going on in Virginia City some of those weekends. It did make sense to run an additional train and be at possibly jeopardizing if something were to happen, there's no inventory to pull. So just kind of looking at that, looking at ridership, we came with the schedule there, and the final page would be the Polar Express. The only real change we made on the Polar Express was, and really taking Candy's comments on how we kind of ran that, is pretty good. This was the first year that we went after Christmas. We all kind of scratched our head and said, well, Santa Claus after Christmas. But I think it was pretty successful other than the late run, the 8 o'clock run. So we went forth with a proposal to eliminate that after Christmas. So really you're looking at, I think it was 13, or actually a total of 36 runs, some special trains. It's a total of 76 Polar Express runs. And with that, I think it's important. I know we've had discussions with just recently with Elaine and Candy to be a little flexible too. It's a schedule that we budgeted off of, but in the event that something comes up and we want to do this or change a date, there is flexibility, I believe, and I'm sure that the commission is going to leave that up to our general manager and marketing team to do that or to make that call. But again, this was just a schedule to get us really to build our budget off of, knowing that we needed to find some compromise in that. So I'm going to open it up from there for comment.
Yeah, having put a little bit of work into this master calendar also, I definitely agree with Denny that it's a living document. When we look at the lineup of creative minds in the back and in our new general manager, I more than anticipate, I expect that we're going to see some great ideas, some outside of the box thinking of how we can run some additional specialty trains, filling up the train on weekends where maybe we've had slow ridership. When you look at those windows of opportunity, when you have a 3-day weekend that for some reason we've had low ridership, that seems to be a mistake of, I think, what we've done in the past, something that we can correct in the future. So I really want to see this expand out. And I think one of the first steps, once we get past today, I think if having the chance for all of us to sit down as that marketing committee with Candy with Specialty Trains and talking about how we can bring, first of all, defining the costs. We just can't bring a train in and if it's a specialty train where we're not having some measured return on our investment. But if that ROI is there, there's no reason why we don't continue to expand out the schedule. So I think we'll be putting those meetings together in the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to brainstorming and being a part of that.
I'm glad you put this calendar together because it showed where we were losing. I mean, we're just throwing dollars out the window running a train that doesn't pay for itself. So to me, looking at these, of course it's in black, that's your flag that says, okay, those are the weekends or days you want to try to, Elaine will try to find some kind of special event to generate for that day on the train, you know, so there's her open calendar there. You might not hit it every time, but it's an opportunity to see what's going to work.
Any additional comment? No? Any public comment? Or Candy, I'll open up to you.
Thank you. I just would like to say I'm, excuse me, glad to hear that you're going to make the schedule a little bit more flexible. And I also think I need to possibly remind you that last season, because we were limited to 2 passenger cars, even when they were full, you didn't make money because it just doesn't pencil out with only 2 cars. So keeping that in mind, we were sold out many more weekends than we weren't with just 2 cars last year. And I know that Tom is working hard to get the 18 running so that our new marketing team can help us come up with some really great ideas so we can fill 3 cars, because then you'll start to see your revenue increase. And we were all very proud of ourselves, even though we were hampered by our limited passengership, we still got a lot of those trains full. And I think that with some creative thinking and realizing that if you've got the seats, now you can get creative, you can have contests, you can get a lot of PR out there, you can do a lot of really fun things now that you have the movement and the seats available. So I'm glad to hear you've made it a living document, as you said.
Thank you, Candy. Yeah, the 18 is the key here. It really is. And I know where Tom's crew is, trying real hard to get that up and running, but hopefully the supply and demand with the addition of the 18 and the extra car could take care of these, make it pretty, that was the intent. Additional public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on item number 12.
I make a motion to approve the 2018 train schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 13. This will be discussion only with our train operator, Mr. Tom Gray. Tom, if you give us an update on the 18 repairs and the Virginia Truckee Railroad. Thank you.
For the record, Tom Gray, Virginia Truckee Railroad. I kind of disagree with something that's been said here, but this is our 43rd year of continuous operations. We started in 1976. I'm going to just kind of say what we've done since the first of the year here, and then I'll go into the 18. But the good thing is Nevada Magazine had 3 great shots of the railroad. Had a cover shot, and then the next month we had a double spread on the inside, and then another one of the Thomas trains. So we had such good weather in January, we decided to get some track work done. So we got we replaced the turnout on the depot from 75-pound rail to 90-pound rail. And we painted a lot of the depot. Right now we're doing a rail replacement on the shoe fly, the sharpest and steepest curve on the whole railroad. We're upgrading that to 90-pound rail. Ken re-engineered that last season and we got it shifted over. So that's a big deal for us. We completed the repairs in the 29, had the FRA inspection and the internal hydro, and we've redone the service day reporting. We've taken down all the decorations from both the trains, and we've packaged up the North Pole and installed it put it in the blue building, transported it down there. We done our deep cleaning on the coaches, and right now we're doing the interior painting. They take quite a beating, so looks like we need about 12 more seats this year. They get pretty well destroyed, that wicker, but they look great. And then on the 18, we did the F Street Events Arena area with the new sewer lines going into town. That was kind of a cluster up there, and still need to address the hazards that the events arena does with the train traffic. It's a big deal, so we're trying to put at least a new lighting system up in there. It may need quite a bit more than that, but at least that's a good start. On the 18, we're about where we stopped last April, or right now we're about where we were in April of 2016, except we've done all the additional repairs. We found the back door sheets installed, riveted in place. We just installed the interior corners. We still have to rivet those up. On the outside of the boiler, we put on the new washout plugs and beefed all that up. We've installed the new fire pan bolts. We've put all the new stay bolts in the throat sheet, the larger stay bolts, and right now we're ready to start putting the boiler tubes back in so we can start putting it back together. I know you're going to ask me when's it going to be ready, and I'm going to say I don't know, but I don't think it'll be ready in June, but hopefully the sooner the better, of course. I think that's about it. It's pretty good for a couple months, 3 months work.
Yeah, go open up the board.
Thanks for coming.
No, and hey, Tom, I just want to appreciate the open door that you've had educating me on a lot of things over the last few months. I'm going to stay close to you because you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to train, and I love going down there and watching you guys fabricate. That's my favorite thing, and I hope to do more of that. I think we're possibly even looking at tomorrow doing a little rail inspection. So I think we're going to talk about that. Yep.
It's pretty abstract until you actually see it, and then you can understand it and make good decisions.
Agreed.
But also on the 29, we have the third car available, if there is, substantial use for the third car, but not just to put it on.
Right, okay.
All right. Congratulations, Lane.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question for you, Tom. You're saying you went from a 60 rail to a 90 rail, or?
That's pounds per foot, so
Pound
it's a
per
lot
foot.
stiffer, and it can take the new engine for Polar Express. We also went through that. We had like 3 breakdowns. Didn't affect any customers or passengers with it, but we've solved all those problems, and that new engine's a lot heavier on the track structure, so it tends to break the rails, and the 90-pound rail's a little more robust.
Is a 90-pound, is it like the web below the rail itself? Is that thicker, or? Is it?
Yeah, and it's taller too.
Oh, okay.
And so it weighs 90 pounds per yard versus 75 or 60 pounds per yard.
Okay. All right,
you can
thanks.
span a farther area.
Yeah, and Tom, I know that the 18 is probably what everybody was focused on right now, but you got some wheels for kind of a special car up there too, just recently, right?
Yeah, we shipped them out almost a year ago to Progress, and then they said they couldn't do them, but I did get some wheels back. So, and the third car needs wheels, Silver City. So by not using it so much last year, we were able to save it and get through Polar without jacking it up. So there's a lot of things to go to keep it going back and forth.
Yeah, and that's a cool car, one that I think all of us would love to see on the track. That gives us a lot of flexibility when it comes to a special experience, a VIP car, serving a few libations, whatnot. Yeah, that's a lot of options with that one. That's a cool piece.
Thanks.
Okay, no motion there. We'll just move on to item number 14, discussion only. This will be engineering report. Mr. Dorr.
Thanks, Denny. Yeah, a couple things. We talked about last week, last meeting. Gabe is going to get those no dumping signs put up on the track. I did purchase those, and so those are going to be up there. So hopefully we won't have any more people dumping material that we don't want there at the Eastgate expansion embankment. Gabe is also scheduled to, as part of the initial ditch cleaning contract amendment that he was authorized to do last year. Still hasn't got his ballast regulator up here. I expect that to happen in the next couple of weeks. And that's something that we're going to be able to use not just for dressing shoulders where we've done ditch maintenance, but that will be a big help for the project. I've been actually wanting to get a ballast regulator on the railroad for probably about 10 years, and so this is going to be a good opportunity to have that up here. I think Gabe's going to make arrangements with Tom to be able to park it up in his yard there for when it's not in use. The other thing I did is a couple handouts, which I did apologize for not getting those in the packet, but basically familiarization for the board. I think Jack has probably seen these documents before, but I don't believe any of the other board members have. One is a little overall overview map of the project, which pretty much shows what's going on between Carson City and Virginia City. Shows Tom's portion of the railroad, the portion of the railroad that belongs to the commission, and where the commission is ultimately thinking about probably going forward in the future. Also, I included in there a little package we put together way back in 2011 for at the time the commission had identified two principal expansion projects to continue on with the construction of the railroad, one of which is in the Carson River Canyon down to the balloon track, if you will, and the other is the Eastgate Station expansion to develop a little bit more of a user-friendly facility within Carson City. Again, in both cases, the commission's already acquired the rights-of-way for both the canyon, and we do have a BLM right-of-way grant for the Eastgate Station expansion. There's some preliminary costs that are associated with those, with that request we put together in 2011, and I just wanted the commission to be aware of those two items. Again, that was the direction that the previous commission had told us to go way back in the day, probably in 2010, 2011. Again, on the Eastgate Station expansion, we've pretty much been doing all that work for free with a little bit of surveying and plan preparation. We're trying to get that embankment built such that at some point in time we can actually put some track on that portion of the project. There's also a picture in the handout there that shows a little schematic of what that facility could look like in the future. That's really about it on that. Tom mentioned the blue building. I wanted to bring that up to you. Again, the blue building is at the old Parker STOL airport, if you will, which is now the Eagle Tech Industrial Center. That's property owned by Steve Rickabosh. And Steve has donated the use of that building for the commission with no charge. So I just wanted you to be aware that Steve has offered to let us use that facility a couple of years back, and just keep that in the back of our mind that that's very good for Steve, because right now we're not having to spend any money for rent for a storage facility. We also have some records in there, and there's maintenance way equipment, and as Tom mentioned, all of the paraphernalia associated with the North Pole. That's about it, other than the fact that, as I think most of the board is aware, I have not had a chance to go take a look at the track for a while, so we have a high rail trip scheduled tomorrow with Gabe at 9 o'clock leaving Eastgate. And Gabe and myself and whoever else wants to go, there's room for 4 people. Probably take a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours, because I actually want to look at a few things along the way, but should have you back home by noon. So that's my question, who wants to go, and we'll see you there at that point, so.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, I'm gonna open that up to the board for questions or comments.
I'm available any afternoon to speak of, so mornings are out. Thanks. But thank you.
We can reschedule another one.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't make it either. Yeah, I had originally rogered up for it. I had a pop-up meeting today at 9:30. Unfortunately, I can't make it. So if anyone else wants to go.
I can't make tomorrow either.
I have an appointment to address this cough tomorrow. Sorry, but yeah, I'll be unable to attend also.
I am available, but again, I don't know if it's something that we need to do right away, then, and certainly would like to go be a part of that. Elaine, I don't know what your schedule is, if you would like to jump on and tomorrow, or if we need to reschedule, I'm okay with that too. I know we're going into an Easter weekend and maybe some travel plans with a few people, but I'm totally open.
So Danny, is that the tour that you were talking about that the both of us should do tomorrow, or?
Yeah, maybe Ken explain what they were going to do out there.
Yeah, basically, we have a high rail truck. In other words, you have a truck that's accommodated, that has guide wheels on it, so you can set that truck on the rail. So you get a real good close of the view of the track structure and the surrounding right-of-way. The main reason we're going is because I want to make an inventory of how much work we did and did not get done with our ditch cleaning catastrophe from last year from the storm. Because there's more work that has to be done, and as well as I haven't been up on the track for a couple months, I want to see what conditions there are and to see if we sustained any additional damage during this last little snowfall and snow melt. So this is a maintenance away item that we're going to use to try to coordinate what work we have going forward. So, but there's room for 6 people in the truck. So it's a working vacation, so to speak.
Okay, Ken, well, pencil me in.
All right.
Okay, so I know Elaine and I are in, and Tom, were you available for that, or are you going to be around, or tomorrow?
I can be, but I'll be evening on that.
Okay.
He's probably got to work on the 18th.
Yeah, if you got your head under the 18, I understand, but, yeah. Okay. So, and so can we meet at the Eastgate Depot about 9-ish?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody else wants to, from the public that wants to attend, show up, you get probably a special treat on the rail there. Go ahead, Joel.
One unrelated question, Ken. Just want to make sure if we're up to date on all of the requirements with the state, with our FEMA requests and forms. I know that you and Denny have been working on it. I was part of that for a little bit of the process, but I want to make sure that are we all up to date? I haven't had a phone call. I've been gone for a week, and I've been working with Jay over with the request, so just want to make sure that we're up to date.
Well, I delegated that one to my right here.
I've tried to do those forms as much as I can, and quite frankly, I've got probably about 15 hours I'm not charging the commission for, because the reimbursement we're looking at is like $25,000, and I don't want to eat into that anymore. So Nick has helped me out as much as possible.
I have it.
And when I first filled out those forms, I had no clue, but I'm not going to go spend 40 hours of study to make sure I get the things right. Hopefully DEM will say, no, this is wrong, let's fix it. So Nick is helping.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ken. So, Joel, I did go down, I met with both Suze and Jay at State DEM, signed all the documents, so we're good. They were very happy to see everything you already prepared. I also gave them Elaine's contact information, so they will update their contact sheet with Elaine and my information on it. And I think going forward, I think we're going to be in good shape. So, thank you.
And again, I think I've got all the backup information. They've already got it. In other words, who worked where, when, and how they were paid. And so they should have everything that's needed. Obviously, we do a couple change requests in there for changes in funding, but we'll see how that works out, so.
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, in my day job, I have about $3.5 million worth of claims that we're working through Carson City and State DEM. So, I mean, I've worked with those folks now for the better part of a year and a half. So I'm familiar with the process.
Yeah. Our little $35,000, $38,000 worth of claims is sort of a pittance, but anything helps.
Great. Any additional comment, questions?
I got a question again. On your map here, you got proposed balloon track and sighting, Merrimack?
Yes.
What is that?
Well, again, you're relatively new to the board, but basically what it amounts to is to get into the canyon. The concern was, okay, if we just put a siding down at that location, then obviously you're looking at taking a train down there and doing a run around and then having to take the train backwards, where a balloon track would actually allow you, whether it's functional, because there's no turnaround anyplace else, but the whole train can basically turn and come back.
Oh, okay.
And so we actually have acquired the right-of-way for that facility. There's been, well, I'm going to say preliminary engineering, but it was a lot further than that. The timing didn't work too well, but if you all remember the shovel-ready stimulus projects, Phase 3A was paid for out of that Obama stimulus fund. We did not, unfortunately, have the additional right-of-way past the 1.2 miles we expanded under that Phase 3 project to go into the canyon. Had we had it, I think we would have been able to be down a little further down the road. And whether you like the stimulus project that was we did under President Obama or not, we actually, I think, were the first project that was shovel-ready because we were shovel-ready. So we had that, I think, of all the state projects, I think we beat everybody with that.
And I think, not to belabor the point, Jack, but also, if you look at that balloon track as a big oval, we've got some very creative people now that are part of the team here. There's a lot of opportunities for someone with the right vision that within that big oval, there'd be, the opportunity to really do something that would be interesting for even beyond just taking the train down into the canyon, which is a beautiful trip and very interesting in and of itself. You would have the ability to potentially have some type of a destination that, wild horses and whatever, or a Western themed, or maybe an old mill, or whatever someone with the right vision, there'd be that potential to also do something like that down there. So.
No other discussion? Okay, we'll move on to item number 15, our attorney's report. Mr. Rowe.
Thanks, Denny. I would reiterate what Ken has said. We have acquired all of the necessary rights-of-way from either John Serpa or Don Bentley to get down to that balloon track and place the balloon track. So that was done at the very end of the funding that we had. A couple things popped up on my radar screen that I kind of passed off to Ken, and then maybe he can comment on them. The first was a request to monitor, and I think Tom brought it up first, a request to mount a camera in or on or around the bridge to monitor the wild horses on the track, and I passed it off to you. Do you have any comment about where that's going?
I haven't followed up on that at all, Mike, other than initial emails that have gone back and forth, so I really don't know what the status of that is. And maybe Danny or Tom, or...
I'm going to defer to our general manager on that one. I love this job.
Well, this morning, before the rest of you arrived, the group actually came in, the horse group, John Smith and Mr. Klein and his wife, and they brought the insurance and their business card. So I plan to follow up with them on their request, and then maybe get with you as well so we can all get together and see exactly what it is that they're requesting. But they walked in this morning with proof of insurance.
Insofar as that's concerned, Denny, that's always my first concern. So I forwarded, I believe it was Tom's email to Wayne Carlson, because I wanted him to be aware of it. And as far as the insurance is concerned, his only suggestion was their insurance be the primary insurance, and there's contractual language that you can put in any agreement that requires that, and then our insurance would be supplemental to the primary insurance, so that if anything does happen, we don't bear the initial brunt of the loss. So that's all I did on that, other than to pass it off to Ken.
And my only concern with that is I didn't want any camera mounted up on the bridge. There's some safety concerns on that. There's no safety rails or walkways on that bridge. We really don't want to have civilians up on the bridge, but they could put the camera on either side. My suggestion was, if you want to eliminate any problem, maybe the horse group could just hire Gabe independently to put it up. And Gabe obviously is covered by whatever insurance is necessary. But again, I don't think the commission should bear any expense on that installation. It's a minor item, but still.
Yeah, Ken, I 100% agree. That's, we have a lot of little projects that come to us, and we got to be very mindful of spinning our wheels and getting to a bureaucratic thing that costs money for something that really doesn't benefit us. But Elaine's going to take that lead. She's also going to loop in Tom and you guys, and they'll work that out without really, hopefully, causing any real grief with the commission here, because we don't have time for that. But that.
One thing I did forget to mention previously under my report was done a little correspondence back and forth with Pipeline. They're putting yet another pipeline down Highway 50, and looked at their preliminary plans. It doesn't affect us. All it's going to be in the new pipeline is going to be within the NDOT right away, outside of the abutments on the bridge at Highway 50. So there's no issue there.
Very good. Any other questions or comments for Mike?
That was the second thing that popped up on my radar first, because the gal from Arizona Pipeline called, and I said, you got to talk to Ken, and that was the last I heard of it, and I'm glad that he's followed through. Bulk of the time was just doing the stuff I normally do, and in this case, or this past month, it was reviewing the multiple drafts of the interlocal agreement and the lanes agreement. And that's about it. It was pretty quiet other than that.
Okay, very good. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 16 for discussion only. Our next meeting dates and the potential agenda items. I will again formally pass the baton to Elaine on this. She's going to take the lead on agendas going forward. But I do know that April 26th is our next meeting here at 1 o'clock. We were also notified today by the community center that the May date is not available. So there was a potential idea for May to maybe move it to the Eastgate Depot as kind of a kickoff. It's about the same time we kick off the season, so to be determined for May, but just an FYI.
I think that would be good.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 17. Any commissioner comments today?
You know, excuse me. I just want to thank all of those that are in contract with us. This has been, in the last 4 or 5 months, sometimes a difficult transition. And, you know, having the confidence in the contractors that are still with us and the new commissioners, and with today having selected a marketing firm and a new general manager, I certainly feel that we're turning the corner and we're heading in the right direction. We've approved a tentative budget that balances us for the fiscal year 19. We've entered into an interlocal agreement that makes sense between the two counties. And for one, having, Ken, Mike, Candy, and Tom, having the flexibility to work with you and the understanding of needing all of the changes we need to balance our operational budget going through the end of this fiscal year. I thank you for everything that you've done on this, but thank you for sticking with us.
Any additional comment?
Well, I would like to welcome both Elaine and our new marketing group. I'm looking forward to a lot of good things, and I'm confident that we have turned the corner. I really am. I think we're headed in the right way. Thank you.
Okay. First, I got a question for Ken, because I just got this handed to me. It says here to finish Phase 3B, which would take the track down to the river, and along with the balloon track. You're saying it's about $6 million?
Again, Jack, those were the numbers we prepared on a fairly detailed, probably 75% design way back about 2009, 2010. So that was the number at that point. I don't suspect that's going to change that much.
Okay. Plus or minus $1 million, or?
Plus or minus $1 million, yeah, give or take.
Okay.
Chump change, right?
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so, and the reason why I asked that is, at the last meeting, I pointed out that I was on my way to Washington, D.C., and I was going to be confronting Catherine Cortez Masto and Dean Heller on giving us another shot in the arm. Because if looking at the history, Harry Reid gave us a $10 million shot in the arm. So I'm going to, our trip got turned around because of the weather back in Washington. They were having the nor'easter, so we ended up being stuck in Phoenix all day and ended up coming back home at midnight. So we didn't get to have our little meeting. But in a sense, it's kind of good too, because now I can get, I have a good rapport with both of them, so I can sit with them in their offices in Reno and point this out. And this way I can introduce our new general manager as well and try to convince them that we need another shot in the arm. Let them know all the good things we're doing. We're going to be running this train in the black, and we got new ideas and new things going on, but it still leaves us short on trying to get money saved up to do anything with the track. If we're running in the black, that's great, but it's not going to help us build more track. So I think I can convince them to give us another shot in the arm. So but I wanted some numbers to know where I'm at, but I'm going to ask for more and hope I get that. Okay. I'll ask for another 10 million.
Again, Jack, what we'd done for a number of years until it looked like there was no more funding, we'd always put together a little congressional funding request sheet. We did that for about 4 or 5 years in a row, and I think the 2011 was the last time we actually put something together on that. Yeah. Again, we've applied for a number of grants. We applied for, I think, 2 Tiger grants, and it was determined this was not what the Tiger program was all about. We applied for through the U.S. Parks Department, a grant basically for access into remote areas. I think that was their Sarbanes grant. That was also for the canyon, but that was also denied. Then that program went away. So there's got to be some programs out there. Again, we also had some assistance with EDA back in the day, and Harry Reid helped get that EDA grant for it, but that helped partially rebuild the tunnel number 2. So again, hopefully Elaine can get her ear to the ground and see what we can go forward with too.
I know that Elaine has been, a week ago, I think she was looking at grants for us. That's going to be her job.
And just in that 90 gigabytes of data that's now on the Story County server, there's all kinds of background information and copies of the previous grants that were put together, and those can always be refined, whatnot, but if you really want to get bored, you can start looking through that database. So I think it took about a week just to load it up on their server, so.
Anything? Good? Okay, finally, before I close this meeting out, I have one request, and I'm going to put our new team there in the back to work right now. This is the first time we're heading in a new direction. I think it'd be only appropriate that we bring the team here, including all of our contractors, and get a photo here with the new start, the V&T. So as I adjourn the meeting, I expect some photos here with all the new team, okay? That we can get out and say we're ready to roll, open for business. So, meeting adjourned.